Orbal energy. Mana. The substance of the universe. Much like atoms, it can change states, and their interactions define the world around them. They come together to make fantastical combinations, like the land we stand upon, the air all around us, and even the combination of perception through mirage, combined with time and spatial awareness to create a consciousness, or the soul. They shift and sway in the vast void of chaos better known as Gehenna. Much like planets, they can coalesce into pockets of concentrated mana. These are phantasma, one of which we better know as Zemuria. The phantasma form from the elements of wind, fire, earth, water, time, space, and mirage. At its core, Septian veins spread like veins of a body, and the concentration of elements eventually formed a soul for the world itself. This was the goddess, known as Eidos. A proper world developed, with the Septian veins siphoning elements from the vast expanse of Gehenna around it. Eidos' will filtered them to create a world the new developing consciousness desired. In the Gehenna around, life of many sorts developed, creating the cryptids and monsters within existence. Many souls formed without more cohesive forms, and found themselves siphoned into the developing phantasma of Zemuria. Eidos pitied these lost souls, and gave them bodies and safe haven within Zemuria from the chaos of Gehenna. Humanity was born, and was integrated into a cycle of souls through the cycle of orbal energy, the Septian veins. Humanity worked with Eidos, the world itself, to develop bastions of civilization. They flourished, developing enhanced methods of interacting and manipulating the mana-based world around them, like magic, alchemy, thaumaturgy, stigmas, and more amazing feats. These lessons were transferred into developing technology capable of employing great powers to manipulate the world's elements themselves. The artifacts were created. Humanity rose, and as it often will, it rose to a state of arrogance. With the power of the goddess herself at their fingertips, they created the Septarians and waged war on Eidos herself. She fought back with the holy beast of her creation, but ultimately failed. The soul of the world itself was flung from its seat of power and found itself in the cycle of souls, reborn as a mortal woman. Humanity, victorious, destroyed itself soon enough through infighting. Eidos herself used her vast knowledge of the world's nature to alter her body into an ageless one, an immortal. She claimed the Septarians and artifacts from the remnants of humanity and sought a new path, one of sustainable peace. The remnants of humanity, seeing folly in their previous ways, looked to Eidos for leadership. With her seat of power now unobtainable, with no will of its own, she took it upon herself to guide humanity to a better end. She provided artifacts, knowledge, and Septarians to try to develop a peaceful world that could stand the test of time. She placed herself as a leader, or as a silent saint unknown to the world. But time after time, these civilizations came to the brink of collapse. A cycle had formed, with the world coming back from the brink of annihilation only to tear itself down once again, no matter what method Eidos tried. The failures came in many forms, and often the stress on the Septian veins could interfere with the filtration of elements from Gehenna. Monsters and cryptids found themselves within Zemuria itself. These beasts lusted after the pure elemental power present in Sepith, as their own existence spurred from it much like humanity. Through the despair of failure, Eidos found herself in a situation where she fell in love with a mortal man, and found solace in that love. And through the failures, he also died. She felt true loss for the first time. At the end of her rope, Eidos developed a final experiment to answer a simple question. Can humanity ever resist the urge of unlimited power to simply live happily? Are they worth saving as they are? She altered the Septarians to be subservient to humanity's will of happiness, gave one as a gift to 7 different civilizations as her final chance for humanity to prove itself, and assigned holy beasts to observe the experiments. In Libero, the Oreo's mission to create happy lives drove its masters to rebel against it after its help deteriorated into complete detachment from life itself. In Crossbell, the contradictory nature of humanity drove Demiurgus to wiping itself from existence. In the land of Erebos, 2 competing civilizations drove each other and the Septarians to annihilation before the 2 merged and forced their masters to split them among 7 vessels in order to suppress the lingering will of conflict in the new Septarian of Steel. All 7 civilizations brought themselves to collapse around the same time. The Septarians were lost or sealed, and Eidos' question was answered in her eyes. So the Great Collapse occurred, and humanity was no longer worth salvaging, as they were. Eidos' followers disagreed, banishing her from her base of operations in the land of Arteria. they formed the Septium Church with the goal of suppressing human advancement by tracking down artifacts and neutralizing them. Adi was left with a new plan in possession of the Septarian of Time. She would reunite herself with her love, while releasing humanity from its current existence. It was the Orpheus final plan, and so Ouroboros was born. It held the emblem of the snake, eating its own tail, as a representation of their grand intent, to bring everything back to its beginning. Society was reborn again slowly, and each region was faced with its own combination of remnant technology and knowledge, and fallout from the Great Collapse. The Septium Church intervened all across the continent, actively establishing a faith that deterred the potential development towards technology that interacted with orbital energy. The burrow-developed small country, with the saviors from the Oriel as the royal family, crossbow-head people desperate to retrieve Demiurgus and use their ancient alchemy knowledge to devise a plan to remake it in secret. Erebos split the Septarian of Steel into 7 parts, each with an associated soul connected to it. The curse of conflict ever lingered, bringing about many wars with the reincarnated Awakeners, using the pieces of the great power to battle them out multiple times over. The first parts of Ouroboros' plans happened in Le Mans many years after civilization regained its footing in the world, where Ouroboros pushed Professor Epstein along the path to developing ordnance. Society itself quickly developed across the continent, and Mana was at the core of civilization once again. In the north, North Ambria experienced Ouroboros' first experiment. They introduced divergent, or elements outside the scope of the Zemurian phantasma, to the area en masse, causing the laws of nature itself to divert from their stable status quo. This, in this case, was known as the Salt Pail. In the Far East, the experiments took another turn as they built upon the divergent elements research by confirming theories on how to break down the flow of elements using said divergent elements to change the laws of nature. This resulted in the world around it slowly dying, but not destabilizing its structure entirely. And so began the true Orpheus final plan with this knowledge. Its first stage was the Gospel plan, where the society retrieved the Oriole. With it, the Phantasmal Blaze plan could be enacted. In Crossbound, the alchemist's plan of a new Septarian came to fruition. And with the help of Ouroboros' Septarian of Time and Space, they could expand the new Septarian's influence to causality itself and all the world around it. A concurrent step was taking place in the land of Erebonia. The Civil War had started, and another conflict drawing the pieces of the great powers once again underway. Following the prophecy of the Black Records, the great tree in the Infernal Castle had been manifested. The power of causality resonated and formed the castle at the capital's core. Within it, a fight raged between fragments of the great power. Another fragment lay dormant as it held onto parts of the lingering curse of conflict. With the Azure Tree connecting the entire world, the curse could be released without its full strength. But the plan was interrupted, and this small-scale instance of the curse was not released as intended. Several years after this failure, Ouroboros conducted experiments to see if they could replicate the events and the phenomena created by the formerly cursed Divine Knight, but eventually concluded that their previous intent had been lost entirely. Deciding it was their best path to completion, they decided to work with the powers that be in Erebonia to finish the plan by unleashing the curse in full. The plan was successful, as the holy beast carrying most of the curse was slain, releasing it to infect all of the country and soon, all of the world. The nature of its ever-spreading influence connects the world itself, allowing for the society's intents to reach beyond the country itself. With the curse released, the world begins to deteriorate. The strain on the Septian veins is more than ever, with the filtration system of elements being irreparably damaged. The curse is eventually stopped, but the damage is done. The next stage is work towards breaking up the building blocks that hold the phantasma together, by using these outside divergent elements introduced en masse, along with eroding elements of wind and water. With the ultimate goal of breaking the cycle of souls, destroying the phantasma, and releasing humanity into Gehenna, in a higher state of being to prove themselves worthy of their grand ambitions or not, by either rising to that challenge, or being lost to its chaos. Idios will be freed from her mortal coil, and she will reunite herself with her love once again, as she retrieves him from the afterlife. Much as Orpheus intended to do, in the mythology, the name references. Will the plan succeed, or will the world enter a new era, one way or another? The story continues on. Hi guys, so that was my thingamabob for, Theory of Everything. That's how it currently stands. I fully expect Cold Steel 4 to completely contradict this. Also in the comments, when I was writing this up, honestly, I wrote most of this up way back when. I also made sure to write out a lot of my reasoning for what I thought were notable questions as to why I was thinking stuff. This actual video only really covers the actual theory, rather than the reasoning behind everything, so if you're curious about that, I have, I think, over 9,000 words worth of just stuff written up in a comment down below if you really want to, so yeah, that's the thing. Oh, and if I don't answer stuff down in that FAQ there's a decent chance I may have already answered it in previous spoiler talks I've done, because a lot of this is built up since my original observation about orbital energy and whatnot from my spoiler talk during Trails from Zero, back when I played that game after that. So that's where I am with that, at the very least. So, hey, disagree, agree. It's fun to do this sort of stuff, so obviously, I fully expect to be proven completely wrong, like in the first hour of Cold Steel 4, at least on parts of this. There's a lot of it that makes sense in my current knowledge, though, so I guess we'll see. It's fun coming up with these theories at the very least. We'll see how much changes by the time I get to a point where I want to do a V2 of this theory of everything. So, Cold Steel 4, coming out. I'll see you very soon in Trails of Cold Steel 4. Oh, it's gonna be fun. Drive safely, everyone.